Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining and taking.
Yeah. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Good to see you after a long time.
Yeah. In fact, yes, we are coming every day, but
मिल नहीं
it has made such a situation that we're not meeting.
Ma'am, you'll be glad to know that in the morning we had this session on innovation and technology transfer with FIIT, and this is the second half of the session.
Right.
And morning also they gave us an introduction and we had some discussion about technology transfer. I think it was quite
Yeah,
useful.
great. So you have three speakers now, no?
Yes, ma'am. So they are going to share about 2 hours between them. So,
Okay.
So Dr. Ashutosh, I can see he's there already.
Okay.
And Sachin, if you think you can take madam's permission and get started.
Yeah, it's 1 minute left. I think 2:30 you can do.
So with this webinar and online mode, I think we are able to reach out to a lot of people whom we.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are able to reach out to a lot of.
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine. Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. I mean, haven't met for about a year now, I think.
Right. It's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Ashutosh.
Yeah, hello, Dr. Rajni. So I think we have two more people joining us today. Dr. Vipin Kumar, who's a faculty member in IIT Delhi, and another student-led startups, Anasuya, she'll be joining us. So apart from what I'll try to share, they will also be sharing their own experiences because both are from academics and then doing a startup and how they went about it. So I think they'll be joining in a couple of minutes probably.
So, ma'am, whenever I talk to Dr. Ashutosh, he is very talking highly about DIF and a couple of startups which have been going well. Isn't it, Dr. Ashutosh?
Have more collaborative opportunities as well.
Yeah, definitely. Our new nodal officer has joined. So he also met. I mentioned.
Yes. Yeah, we met last week only, I think.
Formally start with introductions from your end, madam.
Right. Sachin, I think we can start now. Hi, good afternoon. Dr. Roy. Yeah.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. Good to see you here. Welcome on board.
1 second. I'm facing some technical issues. Yeah.
Ma'am, the DIPSAR teams extends a warm welcome to you. Welcome on board.
Thank you.
Sachin, you can start, I think.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my privilege to start the second session, the afternoon session of the second day of the program. I take this opportunity to welcome all participants and speakers here. I also would like to introduce everyone to our esteemed chairperson, Madam Professor Harvinder Popli. She's been with us in the university now for some time, and she has been dynamically leading the university to higher heights. Under her leadership, we've been getting the advantage of DIV, and the companies are coming now over, and we are also having experiences with startups opening up and commercialization of and innovation taking up in a big way. So ma'am has also been spearheading many programs in this direction. She's brought in more courses here, and we've generated a lot of funding on this, and ma'am's always taking the initiative to develop the students and the faculty in a way that we are able to grow dynamically. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for bringing new energy to the university, and I welcome you. I now request you to please take over the session and introduce the speakers.
Right. Thank you so much, Rajni, and the entire QIP team, and welcome to FITT, the team, and especially this Dr. Ashutosh Pastor. We had a great relationships. We had been, talking to him because we are in the same ecosystem, and welcome to Dr. Roy as well. Who is leading NanoSafe Solutions. A startup by herself, and Dr. Bipin Kumar, who is a faculty and also the founder of ethics Healthcare. Before I introduce the speaker, I just wanted to share a few thoughts about, the startups, which probably in the morning sessions, as mentioned by our coordinators, Dr. Rajni Mathur also, that they had a very, very fruitful session. I'm very delighted to share that this QIP is taking the session on entrepreneurships and tech transfer. Basically, can I? You just stop that screen, then I'll do that later. Sachin, you can stop sharing the screen. Right. Okay. So we have, sorry. With this, especially, I welcome all to the delegates, who have been here now for this particular session, and also distinguished speakers, which is assembled at this August virtual gathering. And I'm sure the enriching deliberations by these eminent speakers will be very interesting and enlightening. India has the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. And few years back, a startup which is valued at $1 billion or more was a very rare species, like a mythical thing, a unicorn. Sometime back in a chamber, we were talking about that how many unicorns we should have from India. So over the past few years, the list of Indian unicorns is increasing. And can you all hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am. Yeah.
So over the past few years, the Indian unicorn is increasing. So India being the hotbed of startups with a huge domestic market potentials, there are many startups which are now grabbing the investor attentions, both domestically as well as globally. So it's the right time to match the retronic or supporting startups so that they graduate to become unicorns. And presently, there is a right infrastructure which enables the policies and government support for Indian startups. So in just over half a decade, this India has shown a great appetite for technology, data, and the internet basically paved the way for thousands of startups to rise over the past decades. So from having a handful of tech companies to dozens and now thousands of innovative new ventures, now this Indian startup ecosystems, grew immensely in the past decades. The Indian startup ecosystems has grown by leaps and bounds in the last 4 years, from 35,000 startups in 2016 to over 55,000 startups in 2020, and with over 48.7 billion, which is raised in disclosed funding rounds since 2018. And there are about 15 plus unicorns which have come up in Indian markets, thanks to the rapid rise of the consumer market, as well as the increasing adoption of digital services and products by the individuals and also by the business professionals. So overall, the India has now 34 unicorns today. So in terms of unicorns, the US is the leading, China by 233 to 227, and together, they account for over 78% of the world's unicorns. So perhaps, nothing indicates the success of India's startup ecosystems more than the rising number of unicorns in the past couple of years. And similarly, DIPSAR also, with the visions to achieve the culture of startups, launched the DIPSAR Innovation Incubation Foundations to make the revolutions among the youth of the country and startup fraternity, and to encourage the entrepreneurship skills to nurture the startup ecosystems. We had several interactions to develop the healthcare startup community and entrepreneurship skills of the startups. So we would like to appreciate the efforts and initiatives of the government, and also, thanks to our partners FITT for their support. Also the DBT, BIREC, CSIR, DRDO, and ICMR, who have also announced several funding support for the development of new ideas, innovative technologies for the startups. So while some of the startups may face the adverse challenges in the current scenario, a plethora of players in the startup ecosystems are blooming. So this is a moment to thank all such platforms and the people, who are working at the back end, and also the FITT, in the same ecosystems to serve the community at large. And, just a small advice to the startups which is facing challenges, that put on your thinking caps and think out the box. And lastly, never give up. So because like all global crises, this shall also pass too, and we shall come out of a stronger together. So we have to stay safe and keep ideating. So in this series, I welcome Dr. Ashutosh. Dr. Ashutosh, you can share the screen, Sachin. Dr. Ashutosh is currently working towards development of entrepreneurial ecosystems in the region, and he is managing startup incubation at the foundation for in the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, one of the foremost technology business incubator in the country. He is implementing various funding programs for our innovators and entrepreneurs in the biotechnology domains like BIREC, BIG, SEED, LEAP, Pfizer IIT, so Delhi Innovation and IP programs, and many other government and CSR funded programs in other domains. And even, our students from DIF also attended, few of their sessions in the evening, where they have the evening sessions over the tea. Now, this has been, when the biotechnology business incubation facility was started at IIT Delhi, the FITT was, born at that particular moment. So he's closely working with the since inception with the various startups, interacts regularly with them to basically understand their challenges. With him is Dr. Bipin Kumar, who is the founder at Healthcare, and who has completed his BTech and PhD textile technology from IIT Delhi, and was working on the interface pressure on the medical bandages. So after his finishing his PhD in 2013, he went to do a postdoctoral from Hong Kong Polytechnic University. And he is having now faculty positions as a research assistant professor in a Hong Kong Polytechnic University, which is ranked #1 in a textile technology. And his current research is also focused on ways to make the fabric unit. And he's targeting interdisciplinary research. Welcome to you, Dr. Bipin. And welcome to Dr. Roy, who is the founder of NanoSafe Solutions. She has completed a PhD degree from, again, IIT Delhi in 2019. And she has founded a startup, NanoSafe Solutions, along with Professor Mangala Joshi, again, a professor at the IIT Delhi. which an academic spin-off from the PhD research work. So she's also a recipient of a biotechnology ignition grant, big grant, which is sponsored by BIREC DBT in 2019. And she was a DAD fellow for IIT DAD Master Scholarships, and she's contributed 11 published papers and 3 book chapters. And currently she's focusing on developing antimicrobial functionalized polymer nanocomposite materials on a base material for making containers and bottles. So I think it's a live example wherein, you know, she can share that how from a research work in a PhD, you can have your own kind of a startup. So we look forward for a very interesting deliberations and a lot of learning and very interactive sessions. So thank you very much, and over to Dr. Ashutosh.
Thank you, Professor Popli, and good afternoon, everybody. I think a very nice introduction to the startup ecosystem, the current status in the country, and also like we talk about unicorns. And I mean, IIT Delhi is one of the front runners in these areas where the number of startups and the number of unicorns when we talk about. So a lot of them, in fact, majority of them are from IIT Delhi, and the whole ecosystem is actually getting benefited from the policies the institute made early, and now with the kind of initiatives that we are having. I wanted to talk about the academic entrepreneurship today, primarily because all of us are faculty members have joined in to the session today. To start with, I think I initially invited Professor Bipin and Anastasia to share their visions, like how exactly from an academic lab, the kind of research that they were doing, and how exactly they translated it to a product and then doing a startup and starting generating revenue also. And both of these companies are in revenue stages now. So, I mean, they're very great examples of how academic entrepreneurs can grow. So now I'll be talking about in more theoretical terms later on. I would initially request Professor Bipin Kumar himself to actually share his vision and share a bit details about his own journey as an entrepreneur and where he is now and how academics can actually lead to entrepreneurship in a very nice manner. So Professor Bipin, we would like to hear from you first. And
thanks, Dr. Asutosh. Thank you for nice introduction. Thanks, Arvinder. It's a very nice introduction to all the faculty members here. Being a faculty also in this community, I know there are so many challenges when you do something which is not in your league. But trust me, the kind of responsibilities we have, because if we really want to move this country forward, we also have to actively participate with our students and promote them to the entrepreneurs. So it is just because of them only it was possible for me that today I'm also running a full-fledged startup. Although responsibilities are huge, but the journey has been very, very beautiful and very thought-provoking, that what we are actually missing in academic culture and what we should change so that more and more startups can come in the institute. Also as a faculty, is like how you should initiate, what plan you need to execute before you can get some results. So I really want to share my journey to this community. Maybe this journey can be helpful to some of you to do it in your university or in your colleges. So I want to share my screen first. Let me first suggest if you can see my screen.
Yes, Dr. Ben, we are able to see your screen now.
So this is the startup actually. We started hardly 1 year before, and at the time of COVID-19, we got a very prominent problem areas where I found like our expertise could match and serve this country. So immediately we launched the mask at the time of urgency, and suddenly it picked up. But before moving forward, let me first introduce the team and the journey, like what exactly happened with us, because see, everyone wants to see the result, but the kind of struggle and the sacrifices one has to make when you do the startup is really something everyone should understand. And because this is the journey everyone has to face if you are going for entrepreneurs. So there is no shortcuts. It's only the pure hard work that is going to work out, and timing has to be very, very perfect. So this is my small team. If you see, all are young players, no experience, nothing. No one has done the business before. Personally, me also, I was a student at IIT Delhi, passed in 2009, did PhD, got some postdoc research, got a faculty position in Hong Kong. The only reason I came back to India was that I thought like India has a lot of potentials and I had to tap it. And the moment I got the job in IIT Delhi, I just moved back to my country, and the whole last 3 years I was planning to execute it. Not just like the startup created on in last 2-3 months. The planning was done like 5 or 6 years before. So if you have to execute something in academic arena, you have to plan now, because the results will come eventually 2 years or 3 years later. But what you want to achieve, that you have to decide at this moment. Otherwise, you cannot achieve. So when I joined, I followed 2 simple strategies. Like whenever you go, there is some responsibilities and some commitments towards your department, towards your institute. And 2 things is very, very important: teaching and research. You cannot skip this. And both of these is fundamentally very, very important. No matter how much research ideas you are bringing, no matter what your vision is, but these are the 2 fundamental pillars of any academic institutions, and you cannot ignore them. If you are ignoring any one of these, I think then probably it will be a difficult journey for all of you. So first year, because I joined in IIT Delhi in 2017. So the entire year I focused on teaching. My main fundamental, because I was knowing that if I have to grow, I need to create a team. Team of what? Team of best talented students. That's all. All of us are so busy in admin work, so busy in research work, so busy in teaching work. If we cannot create, no matter how much effort you are putting in something, until unless if your team is not dedicated, if your students are not sincere, if your students are not active, you cannot achieve. Now the question is, as a new faculty, when you are going to any colleges or any universities, what they are bringing more and more ideas. So I got the sense that I have to just channelize these energies, because my job was done, because I got the best teaching, I attracted the good students. Now the next thing was how I can channelize those energies, those young minds. So definitely I was also a very good researcher at my own time. Got best researcher award recently by Institute of Engineers. But nevertheless, these are personal achievements, and personal achievements is not going to work in any startups. You have to really work on making a good team. Otherwise, things will be useless. But before supporting a big team or big research, what you need is funding. So I still remember on the first year, I wrote almost 40 grants, because I was knowing that I need to collect money for my students, for my PhD students, master students, BTech students, because students will come up with a lot of ideas. And if you are not able to provide them resources, the good resources or good ecosystem in your university or in your lab, in at least in your own field where you want to achieve. So my first year was all about teaching and writing proposals. So I wrote almost almost 40 proposals I wrote, and luckily I got 5 and 6. So some consultancy, some DST grants, Inspire grants, seed grants. So I got this funding of 2 crores or something like that. Then I become more flexible. So any students coming up with any problem statement, I was immediately giving funds to them. Don't worry, you just play around. I am there to support you, because see, this market is so volatile. So unless you are not try with at least 4 or 5 research project ideas, you are not going to get any commercial success. There is not, the success rule says that out of 10 try, you will get 1 success. So this was very clear to me that I need at least 5 or 10 different research projects, and I need to keep pooling them, supporting them financially. So, and luckily, finally, after almost 2.5 years, we were always looking for good opportunities. And immediately, being a textile background, we found one of the biggest opportunities is the mask. So in the month of March, when the price of mask was skyrocketing, and then we thought to launch this Kavach mask. So we immediately identified a gap in the market, that surgical mask is not fit for masses. Medical N95 was very, very costly, and textile masks are not protective. So the gap was clearly there. prices was skyrocketing. So immediately, being a textile engineer, we thought this is the best time. So sometimes while running a startup, no matter how much hard work you put, your timing has to be very, 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 very perfect. If you miss one best time in your life, you lost. So that's why we immediately identify PP is going to rule for next 2 to 3 years. We never thought that we will run this mask business, but we got this opportunity. And at the time of Corona, when everything was going shut down, and we got a very good, beautiful opportunity out of it, and mask become successful. So Kavach was launched. It was very well captured in media everywhere in the month of April. In terms of affordability, protection, comfort, biodegradability, we try to capture the essence of the market. That market is looking for comfort, protection, biodegradation. So here the technology's role, your own subject knowledge is going to help. So luckily from the fabric background, I picked up very easily, and it was very easy for me to design a good quality mask at a very reasonable rate. So this was some of the performance. You can see, like, almost in last 3 to 4 months, over 2 million products has been sold. We also, because of our honorable Prime Minister is also supporting a lot of Atmanirbhar Bharat, made in India.
Professor Vipin, we've
We
lost
also
you.
got the opportunity to sub. Can you hear me?
Fine, I think it's fine. And in between, I think we lost your voice. No problem. We can go ahead.
Yeah. So this is some of the journey of the Kavach so far. And later, after getting feedback from the customer, we keep innovating new products, and we keep launching multiple versions, multiple functionalities in the product. And today, if you see, Kavach is listed in almost all the e-commerce platform, not only in India, and also we are listed in Axie and Amazon USA. We also become Amazon Choice product, which is not easy because nowadays everyone is making masks, but creating something, some position in an e-commerce platform like Flipkart and Amazon is really challenging. And luckily we got some edge on that. We also able to create some distributors, pharma retails networks, and also connected with many NGOs and government parties. So this was all. So now next big thing which we are going to launch. See, we are keep on improving. Our startups are always looking for new and new opportunities. Now students are also become mature in the sense that they are also picking new market scenarios. So recently we are going to launch this antiviral products. In future, we are going to launch advanced compression textiles, which is again a new field in the smart textile business. The validation is also being done at AIMS. Next, we are also going to launch a smart wearable. So all these products we have already ready. We are just waiting for the right time because nowadays purchasing power is very poor. These products are ready, but we are waiting so that the people everyone become adjustable in the life. India should get it back to in normal states. Then we are going to launch these products. So because to sustain in this competitive market, you have to keep improving, because being a product oriented company, every 6 months you have to innovate, otherwise product will fade down. So some functionalities, some new products, some new ventures has to be there. So why all of this is possible is just because of team. See, as a faculties, you have our institute commitments, we have others commitments, admin commitments. There are so many duties we have. But if you get a good team, good research team and good marketing team, and then probably you can explore a lot. So, and this is only possible as a new faculties. I personally want to emphasize to all the new faculties, don't lose the opportunities and don't underestimate the potential of students. You have to connect with the students. It is the students only which will grow you. You can, no matter how much effort we make at a personal level, our effort will not match the effort of a team. So always think for collaboration, connection, networking, making and building a beautiful team. Rest all will automatically will be in place if things will click. So with this, I would like to end my presentation. I would be very happy to answer any questions all faculty members who are listening to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Vipin. So I think we'll ask Anusuya also to share her experience, and then combinedly we can have some questions later. So I would just request you to wait for a little more time.
Yeah, sure.
Anusuya, so Anusuya is a very promising entrepreneur, young entrepreneur, and I think after her PhD, she also got selected for the BIG program, and now we are supporting her. She's also like launching multiple products in this space, and especially in antimicrobial containers and even textiles. So we would like to hear from Anusuya her journey, and then then probably I'll talk for 5 minutes, and so and then we can have a Q&A session. So Anusuya, over to you.
Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Ashutosh. Very good afternoon to one and all present here. Today I'll be talking about one such innovation of nanosafe solutions, which is very close to my heart. Why it is very close to my heart is because the basic research that has been done in this innovation stems from the technology that was developed in my PhD dissertation time. So that is something that we have been working on for the last, let's say, 7 years. We have been working on an innovation that can curate, that can have applications in the antimicrobial and antiviral sector and have very good commercial implications as well. That being said, I would like to request Dr. Ashutosh if he can share his screen. Yes. I think, yeah. So what do we do at NanoSafe Solutions? So NanoSafe Solutions is essentially a technological startup with FITT, IIT Delhi. And, our core competency, is, as the name suggests, is on nanotechnology. Why nanotechnology? Is because nanotechnology is one of the frontier areas of science, which has immense applications in the current scenario. Why nano? It's because of its very small size, because of its very high surface area to volume ratio, we are able to make products, we are able to make applications, innovations, which have got very high functional output. So that is why we chose nanotechnology as our base technology, and we are right now focusing on the antiviral and antimicrobial sector. Antiviral and antimicrobial sector, needless to say, is one of the booming areas of science and research that the world needs today owing to the pandemic. And here we are trying to make a difference with our innovation. Next slide, please. Yes, so this is one slide I would like to talk about. This 2020 year, this year is the, terms such as viruses, bacteria, immunity, microbes. These were all of what can do to stop the spread of the virus. Of course, mask is one of the most important tool in kind of reducing the transmission of disease. In conjunction of using masks, people are more more aware that they should the room right now. I'm sure you'll find like 20 to 30 different items of polymers right in front of you. It can range from very flexible type of packaging, like film packaging, like product packaging, to very high tensile strength, high tensile modulus, commodity plastics that we use every day. The textiles we use are polymers. Even in the healthcare, if I look at it, so medical plastics also, they're like, huge polymer applications, baby toys, which needs to be antiviral and antimicrobial at this very moment. These are also, plastics. In fact, technical textiles ranges from automobiles, geotextiles. So there is a whole range, whole gamut of applications that polymers have. At NanoSafe Solutions, we have a very focused and clear vision. We feel that if, as polymer scientists, as material scientists, or as textile scientists, if we can make all these polymers that we see around us, antimicrobial and antiviral, like all of them, then what contribution we are doing to the world? It's like it will help in the reduction of transmission of microbes from object to object. Let's say your polymer, your mobile phone, your mobile cover, your mobile screen, something that you use every day, something that you use every 5 minutes or 2 minutes is antiviral or antimicrobial. You touch it continuously. So it will reduce the infection chances a lot. In that very way, mobile phone is just an example, So in that very way, if all the water containers, if all the, everything, in fact, the car seats, the car steering wheel, everything can be made antiviral and antimicrobial. In that way, we feel that we were able to reduce the transmission of microbes and viruses from person to person and object to object. Next slide, please. So the current antimicrobial approaches, in terms of, if I talk about plastics, if I talk about plastics that have commodity as well as high-end applications, go by conventional approaches. These conventional approaches include antimicrobial species as quaternary ammonium compounds or silver. Organic moieties are also used, but these are less in number. So silver, I would say, is the most popular choice in case of antimicrobial, of course, because it has a very high antimicrobial activity, followed by quaternary ammonium compounds, which also demonstrate a good antimicrobial activity. Next slide, please. But at NanoSafe Solutions, our technology is based off a different element, of a very different kind of innovation. The technology that we have at NanoSafe Solutions is called Accure. The CU in Accure stands for copper. So it stands for Smart Copper Release Technology. So it is basically nano copper, which is substrate immobilized. So it will release copper in such a way that it is metered. So what happens is, the beauty of this innovation is, why this innovation is different from the other innovations is, this is based on nano copper, which is actually an essential micronutrient. So we are harnessing the antimicrobial and the antiviral effect of an inherent antimicrobial substance such as copper, which is also an essential micronutrient, which means that the end product which is made antiviral and antimicrobial will have zero toxicity, because copper is an essential micronutrient, as well as having good antiviral and antimicrobial activity. So this innovation has won the prestigious Biotechnology Ignition Grant, which is sponsored by BIRAC DBT. Next slide, please. Yes, so what are the properties we are able to achieve with this Accure technology? So we have got excellent at par silver antimicrobial activity against, it's greater than 99.99% against gram-positive bacteria S. aureus as well as gram-negative bacteria E. coli. We have checked the antiviral activity against a very potent enveloped virus, which is influenza type A H1N1, which is a cause of the previous pandemic. So against that also, we have got more than 99.6% antiviral activity. Antifungal activity is excellent in case of copper, so we have got excellent antifungal activity against A. niger also. This is something that silver does not have, because it's not an essential micronutrient. So this is one added advantage when you're talking about copper. And also copper has this, our Accure technology has this very good property of releasing copper in metered amounts, so that the durability of the product is sustained. Next slide, please. So this Accure technology can be applied in lot of different substrates. Of course, textiles and polymers can be categorized within them. So in textiles, it can be applied through coating, finishing, as well as high-end finishing methods such as sol gel padding or colloidal padding. In polymers, it can be added as a master batch in all the molding operations that a plastic has, let's say blow molding, roto molding, injection molding. So these are all molding operations that the plastic part undergoes in the last stage. So in all the molding operations, this Accure technology can be incorporated to make the product antiviral and antimicrobial. In film forming and extrusion also, this can be applied. And on surfaces, so there are surfaces which are not polymer based or textile based. In them also, we are trying to make something, some kind of spray, some kind of disinfectant to make that surface, let's say metal or wood or glass, this kind of substrates we are trying to make antiviral, antimicrobial as well in with the use of a nano copper spray. Yeah, so to talk about some of the products that we actually have at NanoSafe Solutions, this is actually the the world's first antiviral and antimicrobial bottle, in the sense that the outer surface as well as the inner surface of this bottle is antiviral and antimicrobial. So what will it do? When you store water in these bottles, it will ensure that your water is microbiologically safe. You can store water in this container right up to 10 days, and starting from 30 minutes, whole of your water will get purified. B, when copper will leach from this surface of the container to the inside, it will actually result in fortified water. So actually when you drink it, you are drinking essential micronutrient. Also, the outer surface of the bottle is antiviral. So when the bottle is passed from person to person, from place to place, from surface to surface, it will decontaminate, deactivate any virus that comes in contact with the bottle. So this is a product that we have at NanoSafe Solutions. The other product I want to talk about is, of course, the N-Safe mask. This is our patented mask. This is also an antiviral mask, in which all the layers of the mask has been coated, has been finished with an nano copper based coating, which ensures that any virus that comes in contact with the mask will get deactivated within hours. So that is the beauty of the technology that we developed with N-Safe mask. It is a 50 times washable mask. It means that if you wash the mask 50 times, then all the properties of the mask, such as filtration, antiviral efficacy, all that will remain intact. The outer layer is water repellent, made water repellent to repel off any virus aerosol that comes in contact with the mask. Of course, the mask conforms to all the ASTM standards of filtration, breathability, and comfort. So that is taken care of. We have also N-Kids, which is a smaller version of the N-Safe mask to suit the children. N-Smile mask is another variant of this mask, where we have made a transparent window inside the mask. This is for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, and also this is important from security standpoint when the face of the person needs to be revealed in front of the CCTV cameras. We have also another cost-effective mask, N-Safe Life. This mask is 20 times reusable mask, and this has also an antiviral nano coating on its outer layer. That brings me to the end of my presentation. These are the kind of innovations that we are doing at NanoSafe Solutions, and I'm sure with proper guidance and mentoring and funding, we will be able to achieve much more in the antiviral and antimicrobial sector. I'm reachable at this email ID, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for me now.
Thank you, Anasuya. So I hope, you got a good glimpse of two startups developed by, both are from the same department in a way, in IIT, from IIT Delhi. And I just wanted to bring them on board today to give a glimpse like how a faculty or a student, if they really are interested in doing a startup, they can go ahead. And these are a few examples, but apart from that, I think we have a very good ecosystem, a few good policies to support startups from our faculty members and students. And I'll be talking about them a little later. Before that, I'll just quickly talk about, just let me share my screen first. So I hope my screen is visible now. So I'll just talk so I'll just talk a bit about how from academia we can actually go towards entrepreneurship and what are the advantages. Now at academia, all of us are actually actively developing technologies, and sometimes the end goal is a basic research or a know-how or a knowledge that we generate. While when we talk about entrepreneurship or when we talk about applied research, the end goal is primarily to develop a product that can be used by the society for the welfare. Now, FITT is one of the ecosystem partners, and at IIT Delhi, I think we realized this quite early in the days. Like in 1992, we started this office called FITT, the Foundation for Innovation Technology Transfer. And the whole idea was to commercialize technology and using various modes. So we used to do partnerships with industries. We were managing all the intellectual property, the IPR protection and licensing through commercialization, through motivating our faculty members to do spin-offs and our students. Also doing technology transfers to the companies. So while we patent, and then we also try for technology transfer that goes on to an industry and comes out as a product. We're also supporting startups. We have now 3 incubators and 3 research parks are coming up. One is already in place and commissioned. The second one will be ready by mid of next year. And the third one is like in ideation phases right now. There's a good nationwide network with major incubation centers and universities to enable this whole ecosystem. And we have a large technical and business mentor pool. And the whole idea is to like somehow help academic people to do a few startups we're having who regularly work, and some of them have already launched products. 2 examples of startups who already have launched products, you just heard from them. And then I'll show you in my next presentation a few more examples of similar startups who started from academia, got some funding, and then launched their product. These are the research parks that we're going to have. I won't talk too much about that. Now, entrepreneurship has given a lot of impetus in the current times, and the government is really supportive of these, supportive and launched a lot of initiatives. The whole idea is to like have regional development. We can solve our own problem, and with the Make in India, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, or the Self-Reliant Mission. So the whole idea is to actually develop technologies which can be used by our own country instead of relying on imports and other things. So this is the whole picture, like why we really want to promote startups. So community development, exports can actually help the country to earn some GDP. Standards of living it can be improved. And India is actually a very unique place. We have a lot of challenges in our daily lives, and with technology, actually, we can solve a lot of our own challenges. This is just a snapshot of the overall Indian startup ecosystem. I think in the year of 2014 to 2019, about 9,000 odd startups were incepted. And in 2019 alone, I think 1,300 plus startups were added when we talk about unicorns. So I've just taken it from a report from NASCOM, but I mean, very important data. So I thought I should share it with you. Active institutional investors are growing, the active incubators and accelerators are growing, and there's a lot of support option available from the government for startups these days. And especially when we talk about sectors. So health tech health tech is actually a large sector where we think about like 12 to 15% of the overall startup space. And then there's food and food tech, mobility, travel and hospitality, retail, ed tech, HR, agri. In fact, agri is one of the sectors where government is giving a lot of focus these days, and health and agri especially. And with the experience that we had in the past 1 year after the COVID-19 spread, like pandemic, I think the health tech and healthcare are really going to be sectors to look at. We'll just talk a bit about academic startups. So given a definition that a company that is founded by a faculty member, a staff member, or a student who during the university or left the university to start a company, and around a technology or technology-based idea developed within the university by them. There are really good examples of academic startups and the likes of Yahoo, Google, Microsoft, Dropbox, and a lot to name. These are all academic startups who started somewhere or the other from a university. And also when we talk about the life sciences field, I mean, most of you might be aware of Genentech. Genentech was a brainchild of Professor Hoyer, I think so. It's one of the prime examples of an academic startup which did really well. So at a stage one, we identify our capabilities and competencies. We get some funding from SEL for university. We can get some public funds or corporate funds. I think Dr. Bipin really explained it very nicely, like how he started trying some funds, applied for 40 agencies, got 5-6 programs funded, and then started a research. And while doing that, I think how he exactly moved on to entrepreneurship. Now at stage 2, you actually do a lot of research. It could be pure research, which can later on lead to applied research or directly up. So pure research is more like to generate a know-how which can actually lead at a later stage to a product, or an applied research where you already know what is the goal. You already are aware like what you want to build and then start developing a technology around that. So both these forms are fine. And once you develop the technology, you file a patent, you can either license it to another industry, lease the technology to another bigger industry who will be willing to take it to the market, or create a spin-off where where you on your own want to take it to the market and then generate economic and social value. So this is just a brief on how academic spin-offs can actually go. And this is the overall process flow. But I'm sure Dr. Bipin's own experience, I think, would have helped you to some extent to know how he started and then moved on to a revenue stage company now. I face a lot of challenges also in between all this. So some of the challenges that we know are generating funding. For startups these days, I think it's not that much of a problem because a lot of funding options are available from the government. And I have another part of my presentation later where we'll be talking about some funding opportunities. Next thing comes about is raw material and manufacturing. So at an early stage when we are entrepreneurs, we are more inclined towards R&D, and we don't have enough resources or enough capabilities actually to do all the manufacturing or get all the supply chains and everything in place. So this is one of the challenges for which an incubator can actually help you out to some extent by providing relevant connects. And also when you are part of an incubator, I think you learn from each other. The startups, they learn from their peers, and that also enhances the whole ecosystem. The next thing is regarding the compliances. So, I mean, most of the pharmacy people will be aware of this, that a lot of compliances and trials and certifications, approvals are required before you launch a product into the market. Then it's about your business plan, like how exactly you pitch in to the customers, and also your distributor networks and supply chains where you need to take a product to the market. So there's a channel from which it can reach to the customers. Now, all these challenges exist for the startup, and that's where the role of incubators come in primarily, where we somehow try and make academic research more practical by helping out our students and faculty members to think in this direction towards doing startups. And the whole idea is to foster entrepreneurship and provide advices in terms of IP, in terms of licensing, commercializations. We conduct a lot of seminars and networking events where our participants can actually talk to relevant people. So sometimes there are investors, sometimes there are legal people, sometimes we do these sessions on IP, and many times with investors, we do pitching sessions as well. And whole networking and connect is provided through an incubator. So with that, I would like to thank you for this. I have one more presentation where I'll be talking more about the funding opportunities, but I would just like to stop here regarding academic entrepreneurship. I think already, as Dr. Bipin and Anasuya has talked, so I won't be talking too much on that. I think we can have a few questions for 10-15 minutes and then move on to the next section. So if any of the faculty members have any question for me, Dr. Bipin or Anasuya, we are happy to take your questions.
I think it's an excellent presentation by all of you, and especially the way you have summarized. I think before anyone starts with the questions, I have one question which probably might be, since there are a lot of other faculty members who have been joining, and there's also challenge with us. So this question is to Dr. Bipin. So Dr. Bipin, at what stage, you thought that your research ideas you should convert into a company? Because, several of our faculty members, started with the companies, and when they were asking for the funding, they had to make a private limited company. So when they started with a private limited, definitely, you can have a VC fund and the other funds, which is being given to these funds, but for the compliances cost. So they were finding a lot of challenge, in their accounting, in their systems. So how did you meet that challenge? If you can share that, it will be helpful, for the faculty. But the challenge.
See, I completely agree with you. Like there are a lot of challenges initially when you are developing some technology and then you have to launch it in the market. One clear picture I think you should be having is like whether that market is essential, whether that product is actually an essential product or non-essential product. Because see, it all ultimately depends on the market demand. No matter how much technology you develop, but if the market forces are not with you, things will be in vain. So you have to really think about those to start a startup. My personal suggestions will be always go for those type of products where you can tap it maximum number of market. Because I personally in my startup, the first product which we wanted to launch in April was something different, and it was a little bit costly, and the market segment was very small. And then we realized that it's a completely new marketing game you have to do to launch that particular product. So ideally speaking, when you are starting something, better capture the market essence first and see whether technology is fitting in that particular market, yes or no. So that type of homework you have to do, that forces you have to do some kind of market validations. I know there are some challenges, compliances challenges are there, testing challenges are there. If you want to see my journey, we got this opportunity in the month of March and April, and trust me, we were having no fund. We started with zero bank balance in my company, and there was no support, no financial support. It was just a complete vision that this product will definitely click. And when we got that deal that okay, this product is really very essential, then we pulled our own money. I actually simply I took out all my FD, whatever I saved in my academic journey till today. I pulled it in my company, just on that belief that definitely this product is going to be clear. See, you cannot simply keep on waiting for investors and your grants. And see, these grants, if you're thinking like you will first take the grant and then you will launch something, that is the second option. You should be, first of all, you should be confident on your product, on your technologies. If you feel that your technologies can run, take risk. Rest, everything will always be in place. And pulling a few amount of bucks in the company is not that challenging. If you talk to good investor, if you could pitch to them, even if investors is not ready to support you, try to discuss with the team and see if all of us can take the risk and launch the product. So that kind of risk is very much needed in any business, I believe, because products will come and go. But this, you need to have that risk aptitude to run a startup. Unless if you're not taking risk, then it's difficult.
Very well said. I think, because first you make your own investment, then you can ask others to.
Yes.
For the benefit of others, there's one question from Dr. Roy. Since you have from IIT, you just completed last year from a PhD, because we were facing a lot of challenges of a lot of PhDs, who had been done. And I'm sure you also might be having challenges, specifically from the premium institutes like IIT. So how did you choose between an entrepreneur or being, a placement with a big companies? Because the packages nowadays is so high, and the reward definitely, when you are starting it up, you might, recover your own money probably. As Dr. Bipin must be saying that you're investing your own, and then probably it might take 3-4 years that since you have your own return. So what was the deciding factor, and what is the motivating through which, we can motivate our professionals, because this is a challenge with all professional institutes like ours and like yours?
A very valid question. Personally, I am that kind of a person who likes to take challenges and risks. As Dr. Bipin rightly pointed out, I mean, I resonate with him completely that startups, people look at startups as successes, but they do not know the struggles or the pains behind it. And there's a lot of challenges, a lot of risks that are associated with startups from day one. And at, let's say, day 100 or day 200, people see us and people see us, oh, there's a product in the market and this product is doing well, but they do not see the behind journey. So these challenges, these risks are something of a personal choice, I would say. I mean, after PhD, a lot of people would like to go for postdocs or would like to go for, let's say, even in teaching, they would like to go. Even I had the option of joining as an assistant professor in a university in Ahmedabad. Actually, Ahmedabad, why Ahmedabad? Because at that point of time, my husband, who was very well settled there in Ahmedabad, and I was kind of thinking of option to move in with him and have a very settled life. I already got a job. My husband was having a, good package and everything was well there. But at that point of time, something clicked, something was not right. I didn't feel right. I didn't feel that this was something that I should do and I should go ahead with. And I mean, this is something that, everyone who knows me would say, that I'm much of a risk taker, and challenges enthralls me. I live by challenges. So I was thinking at that point of time, this PhD work, which I had been doing and, got a lot of recognitions on this thing. How would it only be a hardbound paper volume that will be in the library, or some published papers? Will that be it? Is there no one to carry it forward and actually deliver the goodness, the essence of the technology in the market? And that's where I got this very instability within me. And I thought that to do that, I am the best person. Let me try it out. At that point of time, I did not have any business idea about, how startups function and how fundings and all that. But I thought that I'll give it a good try. I thought that this is something that, my heart is calling out to me. And I just pursued that. Big was the first step, actually. Biotechnology Ignition Grant, that was the first step. And, I tried, all my efforts into getting that funding done. And after that, we went for 1 year of R&D. 1 year we went into back and forth doing trials, conducting trials. If I tell you the struggles, in manufacturing, people do not want to manufacture your product because you're nobody. You come from somewhere, you think that you're from IIT, and you go to a manufacturing house and say, this is the product, can you make that for us? And people are like, where's the money? Where's the volume? Volume is a very big constraint when you're talking about startup. They want, like, let's say 10,000, 20,000 bottles at one go. But you cannot do that, because you have to first try it with, let's say, 100, 200 bottles and see if it's working or not. Then you can move to that volume. So convincing them and, going back and forth between trials and all that, it took almost a year. And I'm very happy that I was able to convert it into something very fruitful and commercial.
Congratulations. And I think, both of you are very, very passionate. So passion is one, I think, the key message for anyone, who takes up that, because you have to complete it to the process. There was a question in the chat box. Is that I think probably Dr. Ashutosh, during your funding presentation, which I know you are very good at it, you can take it up. It's what is the process of getting funds from different countries, not agencies, but different countries. Okay, so I think you can address that. But basically, with the different countries, you have to still see, especially if it's a healthcare product. So whether it fits into, in their portfolio, or if they like it, then, definitely you can attract the different funding from countries. But
yes, Dr. So right now, I mean, primarily the funding is available to a startup within a country primarily. I mean, we do have some international collaborations which can enable funding from outside, but in most of the early stage funding, if I talk about the investors or the funding agency, which are government bodies these days, they would ask you to have a registered entity in that particular company where you're trying to get funding from. But although the thing is, like, while being in India, being an Indian startup, you can still attract funding from foreign investors. That is easy, comparatively easy while raising funding. But going to a different country, settling there and getting their funds, that's possible through some structured programs that now we are looking at. And I'll discuss a bit about that during the presentation.
Right. Thank you. I think before you move to our presentations, I don't see any questions on our chat box, but if there is any participants, we can allow 2 questions if there is anyone, who wants to ask any questions to our very passionate, say, entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so I would not like to take too much time of Dr. Bipin and Asue. So that's why, I mean, if there are any questions we can ask, otherwise we can then send them on emails and probably get their responses later. So if there are any questions for them, I think we can have now, and then we can probably allow them to leave if they want.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Ashutosh. Thank you, Dr. Arvinder, and thank you all faculties for giving the time and patience. So please, if you have doubts, please feel free to write to me and Anushya. We are always there to help our colleagues.
Thank you, Dr. Bipin, and thank you. We had a lot of energy, and in a lot of startups, and we are working on some wound care and surgical care where we need a textile engineers and all.
Yeah,
so we'll come back to you. So I am really excited to have some few collaborative projects between ISRO and FITT. So your thoughts have given us a lot of ideas. So thank you so much.
Yes, somebody is.
Madam, may I interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
Some certificates for Dr. Anushya Roy and Dr. Bipin Kumar, if you can present them.
The voice is breaking. We can't hear you.
We're not able to hear properly. It would be good if you can type in the chat box. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, we would like to present you the certificates.
Thank you.
Virtually.
Okay.
Thank you. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me.
Thank you.
Right.
And this is for Dr. Bipin Kumar.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Ashutosh.
It was very well coordinated by, Dr. Rajni Mathur under the leadership of Professor D.P. Pathak and Mrs. Amrita Parle, who has been also QIP coordinator. So this is second in series QIP sessions which has been going on by the DIPSAR.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashutosh. You can continue, maybe.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So I'll move on to the next section now, where we'll be discussing a few funding opportunities that are available from the side of the government. And primarily, I'll try to cover more in the life sciences domains, because I think most of us are in life sciences domain. But I'll briefly discuss other funding opportunities also, and then some other initiatives from the government side as well. So quickly sharing my screen. Right, so I hope it's visible now.
Yes.
Sure. So I would like to talk about funding for startups primarily. So as we discussed, startups from academia can actually really do good, because apart from the skills that we have, the technologies that we develop are fairly advanced. So academia is developing advanced technologies, which, if rightly driven, if the passion or if the intent is there, can actually be taken to the market and can be very successful. And a few examples that I was sharing earlier, those are prime examples where they have made really big. And apart from that, I mean, we have our own incubation experience for the past 20, 25 years. And we've seen a lot of startups going that way and being there, sustaining in the market, and even growing by leaps and bounds. So all of it is there. And obviously, the challenges I talked about. So there are incubators like ours, DIIF, to actually help in all these areas where what kind of compliances are there. We can try and link you to mentors or to relevant people who can discuss those things. We can try and link you to investors. Sometimes, as I discussed, the peer-to-peer learning is also really good, where one startup can actually learn all these from other startups who have crossed that stage and working around yourself. So I would like to come to the funding stages. Now, for a startup, there are multiple funding stages. We start from a seed stage, where we are at a very early stage uh, of the product development, and then we go on to the earlier stage of smaller VCs and debt funds, then late stage funds and IPO. So this graph that you can see, there's a dip in revenue early. In fact, there's the negative revenue where you have more expenditures and there's no revenue at all. So you can see a dip where you're working on the product development, you still don't have anything to show to an investor where he or she can come in and actually invest in a product. So it's a very high risk stage where we are unsure like whether things will work or not. And at that stage, primarily we see the seed funds and the government funds and grants that come in. And once you have that product with you, you launch it, then you start increasing your revenue to some extent. But again, your expenditures in the earlier stages would be high because you'll be doing a lot of trials. Some certifications will be required, a lot of marketing will be required, and there'll be one stage where you'll be break even and then move ahead. So once the company starts generating some revenue or starts showing some traction, at that stage, angel investors can come in. So angel investors are primarily small capital investors who bring in a few lakh rupees to a startup, but there are also angel groups actually where a lot of angel investors come in together and can invest in larger amounts also. So you know about like the Indian Angel Network or Lead Angels or Parav Ventures, a lot of other angel groups are there who can actually help at this stage. I'll talk a little more detail about the seed funds, but before that, I'll just quickly cover this. So once you're in the positive stage where your revenue starts getting more than your expenses, then you can talk to venture capitalists and debt investors where you can take actually bigger loans and then repay them. And at late stage, you go to large VCs when we talk about funding to the tune of 50 crores and all. So at angel rounds, usually people raise capital in terms of few lakhs to maybe up to a crore or one or 2 crores. And then at early stage, where you talk to venture capitalists and all, usually the ticket size comes to be like 2 to 10, 15 crores. When we talk about the pre-series A, then you go into series A where it could be larger investments. So this is the whole time frame, and if the company grows well, you can actually go for a public offering at a later stage. Now, this is the whole difference that we're talking about in terms of the nature of investment. So there's equity funding, there's debt financing, and then there are grants. Now, at early stages, we talk primarily about grants because the grants are available more towards product development, toward IP creation, and you have to show a sense of novelty in the product to the government or to the funding agencies. In grants, you don't have to repay anything in most of the cases. Now, in some cases, they might still ask you for a revenue sharing model or an IP sharing model to some extent. Like in BIRAC BIG, it was a complete grant system. Now they have made it a no liability returnable thing where once the company starts generating revenue, then at that stage, 5% of the revenue they can share back with BIRAC till the time the grant that was given is returned back. But there's no liability because the company fails and you don't have to pay back anything, and there's no interest and all that. So it's still a grant mechanism only. In equity financing, investors give you money in lieu of certain number of shares that you provide to them. And debt financing, again, is more like interest-based, where you take a loan and you have to pay back interests. So this is an overall model, like what different kind of fundings could be there for startups. Moving further, these are some of the programs that we do, and we are implementing partners to some of these to all of these programs, in fact. And at different stages, you find different programs, and all these are at early stage for early stage startups. So when we talk about a startup, and especially when we talk about government funding programs, you have to follow the Startup India definition. So the startup has to be registered within the past 10 years. The revenue should not be more than 25 crores. And these are the primary guidelines on which we qualify. But for certain programs at a very early stage, like BIRAC BIG, they want the startup to be not older than 5 years, because at that stage, the startup is usually like start generating revenues and all. So I'll just quickly go through them, like at stage of immersion and ideation, there's BIRAC Spurge program available. With Boeing, we did a build program where they asked for certain ideas from startups and then supported them after the idea pitching competition. Batch of 69 Innovation Awards is an example where the institute itself tries to help its innovators, primarily students. So it's basically an alumni-driven award where alumni have dedicated some fund each year for student innovators who are coming up with really good ideas to have a 1 lakh rupee per month fellowship and try and develop their product. I'll talk about a few things in detail also in the later slides, but just to give a brief glimpse. Then at product development and validation stages, we have BIRAC, BIG. There are certain CSR programs also, like the Pfizer IT Innovation and IP program for healthcare and health tech. We have a platform for harnessing deep technology, which is also open to everybody. For faculty members, and especially I would just like to draw your attention, like when we try and develop an innovation ecosystem for the faculty members, it's also important to support them. So the institute at a point of 30-40 minutes already. Sorry, I just got a visitor. So in the Faculty Innovation Research Driven Entrepreneurship Program, we primarily support faculty members through a fund of 50 lakh rupees. There's also an option for them to take a sabbatical or a lien for 2 years and full-fledgedly do a startup. So these are certain policies and funding frameworks, especially to help faculty members at the institute. With Sonacomstar, we've come up with a CSR program again in the areas of clean and smart mobility. There are programs from MIT. So again, like healthcare is included, agri is included, but the solutions they look for are primarily in the areas of AI, IoT, any electronics related intervention to help in these areas of healthcare and others. We have the DST's Nidhi Seed Support scheme, where a fund of up to 1 crore is given, and that's also open to any startup working at the incubator. With Engineers India Limited, there's a program, EngSui, which helps startups working in oil and gas sectors or clean energy sectors or pollution-free energy sectors. They can actually avail this funding program, and up to 1 crore of fund is available. With Defense Innovations Organization, there's a program called IDEX, where we are also partner incubators. And I'll discuss a bit about all these in detail. Again, at pilot scale, so at product development and validation stage, these programs help. And then at pilot stages, where the product development part is completed to some extent, and now you need money for doing pilots or money for doing some trials with customers. So again, Nidhi Seed Support is one of the major funding programs. BIRAC Seed Support, which gives you up to 25 lakh rupees of equity funding. And then Investor Connects are there at all stages, I think. For market entry, the BIRAC Leaf Fund gives you 1 crore rupees, again, an equity-based investment. For COVID-19 intervention, specifically in the middle of the year, DST had launched this Kavach program. A lot of startups have immensely benefited from the program. We do a lot of training and mentoring program also for women entrepreneurs. There's also a business mentoring program by our alumni. So I think every institute can tap their alumni who are already at good positions and in business houses or in larger industries. They can actually come back and mentor the faculty members and the students and motivate them towards doing startups. And also, like, there are a lot of innovation awards. In fact, the National Entrepreneurship Awards by the Ministry of Skill Development was implemented first time by FITT, IIT Delhi, and now every year the partner is changed. So we were, in fact, the first implementing agency for that. So this is a brief overview. And overall, when we talk about the biotech funding scenario in India, so in the Global Bio India 2019, I hope many of you might be aware of that. The Indian Angel Network and BIRAC had launched India's first biotech-focused angel funding network, which is the BAN now. And DPIIT is also creating this fund of funds, 1,000 crore plus fund, where they are also planning to come up with this program where they'll be giving some seed capital as a grant plus a larger capital as an investment. So those discussions are on. I'm not sure the program is still launched yet, but the modalities were completed, so I hope it will be there sometime soon. In the past few years, the government has invested almost 380 crores to develop bioclusters and bioincubators, including the BioNest incubators that is also there at DIPSAR. So these kind of initiatives are already there from the government, and programs like the BIG are one of the major enablers for early stage biotech startups. And we are there right from the first call in trying to help out entrepreneurs. And we have seen a lot of success stories through these programs. And then there are other incubation specific, region specific programs, like one we have with Pfizer, the Pfizer IT Tele Innovation IP program, which supports a lot of startups. So this year, like we had 4 startups supported through the program with a funding of 60 lakh rupees to each of them. And this program is also open to all the innovators in the region. They can apply and avail this funding. Now, BIRAC also manages a lot of funding programs. And as you're aware, like at each stage, you will find some program or the other from BIRAC. And since we are managing a lot of BIRAC programs, right from BioNest to BIG, and then Seed Fund, Leaf Fund, and there's also a new technology transfer office that we have. And I think you might have interacted with that team earlier today. So, so a lot of initiatives are available. BIRAC is establishing EUVA centers at various universities and colleges. There's Sitare for school students, and there's a Social Innovation and Immersion Fellowship program where we take fellows, up to 5 fellows per year at each incubator. And I think across the country, we have about 75 fellows who are given 50,000 rupees a month fellowship, plus a 5 lakh rupee grant for product development. So very early stage people, like anybody who has completed their master's or PhD, can actually apply to this, and students can actually really avail this in a better way. And the important component of SIIP program is the immersion. So we don't expect them to come up with ideas or come up with already made products. Primarily, they come up with an intent to be an entrepreneur, and then we try and take them to relevant places, to field visits and all, where they can figure out challenges to solve. And then technically, we try and help them in bringing out those solutions. Then we have the BIG program that I'll discuss a little bit about. For faculty members, especially who are interested in entrepreneurship, BIRAC is having a program called PACE. And there are 2 components in PACE. One is AIR that you see, and the other one is the CRS. So in AIR, which is called the Academic Innovations Research, any academician working in their lab, if they are working on an innovative idea which can lead to a product, can actually avail this. There's funding of up to 50 lakh rupees available for them. And BIRAC launches this program thrice a year. So AIR is a very good program for faculty members who want to develop the product at their own labs. While in programs like BIG, the startups are the primary beneficiaries, and individuals can apply, but individuals have to come through an incubator and incubate at an incubator to avail the funding and then take the help in product development. There are other programs also like SABRI and BIPP, which are more of partial funding from BIRAC. So you come in with a matching contribution, and BIRAC will give some matching contribution. And that way, so again, it's like a returnable component where some revenue sharing happens with BIRAC. And there's a contract research scheme also available for faculty members working at academic institutions, where along with an industry partner, you can apply for this program. And the funding is not limited. So while in AIR, faculty can apply alone, now 50 lakh rupee funding is available in CRS, or the contract research scheme. They can avail like 2 to 3 to 4 crores funding also along with the industry partner. Now Seed Fund and Leaf Fund also I've talked about. I'll maybe in a slide give a little brief about that. And then at the last that you see like the product commercialization unit. So BIRAC has also launched a product commercialization fund, where at a late stage where the product is completed and certified, you need some money to set up a manufacturing capability or to scale up. So that kind of support is also available. So in the product commercialization component also, you can get a funding in the tune of crores. So I've already talked about SPERSH. So it's an immersion fellowship with a stipend of 50,000 rupees a month and a grant of 5 lakh rupee for prototyping. And this program is implemented by BIRAC. BIG is one of the flagship schemes. And in fact, whenever I go for outreach, I usually try and discuss with people regarding the BIG program. Till now, I think about 400 to 500 innovators have been supported by BIG, and more than 100 products have been launched through this initiative. And in fact, about 15 to 20 products are launched by startups, which is supported by FIT, IIT Delhi also. So in BIG, the BIRAC provides a grant in aid of up to 50 lakh rupees, and the tenure of the program is about 18 months. It's an ideation to proof of concept program where you come up with some background data and an idea of what you want to do and want to develop a prototype or a proof of concept. So this funding is for early stages, but still, I think when we talk about areas like healthcare and pharma, sometimes a bit of preliminary data helps so as to kind of de-risk it to some extent, and they know that you get a head start. So I think we all listened to Dr. Bipin today, and I think one thing I would like to compliment him is that even if you get funding or not, if you get a head start, if you start doing things, others will start showing interest and others will start showing confidence in you. So if you don't wait for funding for too long, but start doing something and generate some preliminary data or an initial prototype, that will help you in generating other funding as well. The Pfizer program I've already discussed about in a brief. I'll just go about that. So again, it's a collaborative CSR partnership between Pfizer, which is one of the top 3 pharma companies in the world, and FIT, IIT Delhi. And one of its kind of program, which was launched 4 or 5 years back. And now we have supported about 30 odd companies through IP funding or through grant funding for product development. So there are 2 components in here. One is like startup support, where anybody who's going to do an innovation or bringing up a product can get up to 60 lakh rupee funding. There's also one more funding available, which is up to 3 lakh rupees, which is available for patent filing through this program. So if you see there's a patentability in the product, then you can apply for this and get some funds for patent filing. And this is for individual innovators also, but not available for institutions, but for startups and individual innovators. This deep tech program again was launched as a vision of IIT Delhi, where we want to promote deep technology research and take it to market. So while we see a lot of startups working on frugal solutions and social solutions and coming up with really good solutions, we are also interested to support deep technology development towards like our futuristic needs and requirements. So anybody with a futuristic technology can actually avail this program, where we also provide free incubation to the startup along with the 50 lakh rupee funding. FIRE, I think I discussed more in terms of, because other institutions can adopt this model of supporting faculty members through some funding and mentoring and supportive policies. But this right now it's available for IIT Delhi faculty members only. But I just still thought I should show it here so that you can take a cognizance of these kind of programs. MIT's type program I've already discussed, Nidhi Seed Support, EIL. So I won't go too much into details of all these programs now. What I would like to discuss is what really matters if you want to do a startup. So for faculty members or from people from academics, I think there are multiple things that we need to take cognizance of when we want to do a startup. First is the relevance to the local needs and a relevance to the market. So there are 2 ways to do a startup. One is like knowing a problem firsthand and then trying to come up with solutions. So when you know a problem firsthand, I mean, you know the customer segments, you know where the product will fit in and who is going to buy that, and then you start developing a product. The other approach where most of us in academics follow is that we are working on certain technologies while we know where all the applications are, but we don't zero down on very particular applications earlier. So here you actually zero down on a relevant use case of the technology that you're developing and then try and figure out a market for that. And initially, the customer discovery is an important step before you think about doing a startup. The next thing that matters is the novelty in your idea or novelty in the technology. So if the technology is novel, I think it's comparatively easier to generate funds these days. And also in terms of product. So if the product and technology both are novel, it becomes easier. So if nobody else is doing a similar thing and you're coming up with a very good technology, that'll be helpful. One of the most important things, as Dr. Bipin also discussed, is having the right kind of team. So team is something which drives a startup. And right from the beginning, if you have a very good team, it really helps. Although team can be built up in the later stages also, and initially 1 or 2 people can actually start. But as you go along, it's very important to have relevant people with complementary expertise. So for instance, somebody is a business expert, somebody is expert in electronics, somebody is an expert in advertising, somebody is an expert in pharmacy. So based on the product that you make, or diagnostic or medical device, whatever you're trying to make, have some people in your team who complement your skill sets, and that will be really helpful. When it comes to possible and impossible, so we need to clearly know whatever we are claiming is feasible or not. And when we talk about funding programs, so the time period given to us, like 18 months or 2 years, and the funding that is given to us, say 50 lakh rupees. So whatever we are claiming, is it possible to do within that time frame? So that becomes quite important to understand. And in most of these programs, people don't ask you to have a ready product for customers at the end of it. Only thing is, like, based on the program stage, maybe you just need to complete a proof of concept where you can demonstrate the technology in a better way. Or if you go to a pilot scale funding, so at least some initial trials, free trials at certain hospitals or whatever place your product fits in could be done. So you have to devise the objectives very cleanly, like based on the program that you're applying for and based on the stage that your product is as of now. IIP becomes a very important thing for startups at early stages. I think a lot has been discussed this morning, so I won't take that again. Marketing strategy is a very important thing. And when we talk about startups from academia, this is something where we need to give a lot of thought. And that's where also like incubators and other places try and help out. So you need to have a clear marketing strategy where the product can be sold, who will be the buyer, what will be the revenue model. Will you be selling the product as a one-time product, or it will be like a product plus consumable sales? Or is it a business to customer sales where directly it will be retailed, or it's a business to business sales where another business or another company will be buying it and then maybe converting it to other products? The way being a part of the supply chain, maybe. So all these strategies, and also like if you can beforehand roughly calculate the cost of your product, that will be. So when we talk about competition and while devising marketing strategy, you need to be aware of the competition as well. Like, for instance, you give a problem statement. So what are the other products available currently in the market to solve those challenges or to fill in those gaps, and how exactly your product is better than them? So the USP has to come out nicely. It could be in terms of either safety, reliability, accuracy, specificity, or whatever you feel like based on the product category. And sometimes it could be price. While price is not that much of a big factor, because if the product quality is good, people these days are willing to shelve higher prices also. So that is something I won't recommend highlighting too much on, but other aspects have to be highlighted clearly. I would just like to give a few examples of the startups that have been supported through programs. But before that, I would just like to give you a little glimpse of other government programs also. So there's a credit guarantee scheme for startups. For MSMEs, there are certain loans available. And as I mentioned, like Startup India is also coming up with a fund. There's a funds available. And as we were discussing, especially for startups who need to expand to foreign countries, now these days partnerships are also going to be there. So with GINSEP, like German government, with French government, with Japanese government. I think Startup India, Invest India regularly interacts. We have also been part of certain programs like those. And also there's an Indo-European innovation platform, a collaborative approach they're taking, where they try and help each other startups and soft landing in the country. So while funding, to some extent, government funding in India is still regulated that they only give it to startups registered in India. But certain countries are open to that, and certain investors are open to that as long as they see that the market is big and the product can do well. But it does become a little challenge when you go and operate in another company but you'll still register in India. Most of the big companies you see like usually register their local units in the countries that they operate. So through that, it becomes a little comparatively easy. But when we talk about startup funding, so startups have to be categorized clearly, uh, as like startup definitions across the world vary, and then also like it should not look like a spin-off. So if somebody registers the company in US, even an Indian citizen, if he or she registers a company in US, and then 4 years later registers a company in India, will still be skeptical because there won't be a clear demarcation of what that company is doing and what they'll be doing here. So at that stage, the due diligence process becomes a little tougher. But nonetheless, I think there are still open avenues of those kind of fundings. And I think with the structured programs, I think one of the faculty members asked this question. If you want, maybe later on in the day or tomorrow, I'll share a list of certain funding programs that are available for international outreach or international launches also. I'll just give you brief examples of some other startups working and coming from academic side. So NanoClean Global is one of the startup again from a team of faculty members and students who developed these nasofilters and window nets and AC filters. The primary target was to combat air pollution that we all grapple with, and especially in the winter months. And now, I mean, again, improvising the same has a good application for the current pandemic scenario as well. And there's a true HB thermometer, which was developed by one more student from IIT Delhi about 5-6 years back, and it's already available in the market and widely used. So it's a true HB thermometer where the strip that you see is a consumable part, and this whole device is a one-time purchase. So you prick your finger and put a drop of blood on the strip and give you your hemoglobin content in a digital form. And I think this device is available for about 5,000 to 6,000 rupees for one-time purchase. This is from one more social startup, Arna Biomedical. The person is from RCB in Faridabad, and he developed this Purti kit, so especially in cases of mastectomy, breast cancer patients, to avoid the social stigma, they can actually use this. And now they're also doing awareness campaigns around that. There's a TAP Plan 3D by AlgoSurge from one of the IIT Mumbai alums, Vikas Karade. So he started working on converting 2D X-ray images to 3D renderings, where surgeons can actually better align total knee replacement surgeries and all. Another example of academia-led startup is the Well-Tube Primus, where Dr. Ravi Krishnan, whom you can see down there in the middle, along with two of his students flanking him on the two sides, they started this program with equal partnership called Well-Tube Primus a few years back, and the team has developed, in fact, 3 to 4 products, and right now doing their pilots and will be launching very soon. So there are multiple products like CTB. There's a microscopic attachment for tuberculosis detection. There's an IMC square where it's an immunomagnetic capture device where the sample load or the bacterial load in the sample can be enriched in a very fast manner. So instead of doing a culture and waiting for that to grow, you can actually do the tests in a very quick manner. The team is also working on a couple of other products, including antimicrobial susceptibility tests and all. One more example from an MBBS student who was doing PhD, Dr. Pankaj Parashar, who came up with this cutting edge medical devices private limited. So it's a portable urine protein analyzer, which can actually give results in minutes, and is a portable battery operated handheld device, which can be used in rural settings as well. So especially at the time of pregnancies and all, like complications usually show some protein contents in urine. So those can be detected earlier, and required interventions can be made. There's a company called Clensta, which is developing these waterless shampoo and waterless body wash. So these are primarily formulations which are not having any alcohol or sodium lauryl sulfates or gluten, paraben, alcohol, etc. These are like kind of small bottles where you just spray that on your hair or the body and then rub it a little bit and wipe it off with a towel or something. So you are done taking bath. And recently the company has also launched a bacterial and antiviral lotion, which can be applied to the body to stay protected by surface transmission. In a similar way, a lot of other products have been launched through supports of these programs and also from academic startups. This you can see test right. So this was an IIT Roorkee student who just after completing his BTech came and incubated with us and developed this portable spectrophotometer. So they're targeting adulterations in fuel, milk, and many other things. So with that, I would just like to share this screen where we need to have a synergy. So when we talk about ourselves, like our ideas, our passions, our needs, our interests, what we want to do, but at the same time, we need to also think about the customers. Where are the customers? Who are the customers? And what do they need? Their ideas, their needs, their dreams and interests, and match with the right resources, then we can actually enter this profit zone. So with that, I would just like to end this presentation, but I think we'll be having a lot of questions or discussions. So I'm open to that now. I'll also share my contact details, which are available here, but I'll just type it in the chat box also if somebody needs some specific support. So, I mean, based on your specific idea or the stage you're in terms of development, we at FITT and our ITTO team can actually help out and suggest you whether you should go for a technology transfer or whether you should go for a startup. If you go for a startup, what could be the best funding opportunities for you? So we'll be happy to provide those kind of support to any faculty member who's interested. And with that, I mean, best wishes. So I think I'm open to questions now.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ashutosh. I think it's an excellent plethora of opportunities, which you have captured and shared with the entire participants. So it's open to questions. Sachin, you can moderate any questions if there is. Ashutosh, I can see there are a lot of comments and all has been mentioning about the very nice kind of a presentations. And just, for the benefit of others, I'll be wanted to ask you a question that, there are so many grants available and during COVID time also you mentioned, and from each institutes, specifically from our institutes also, there are 40 or 50, 30, maybe 10 projects, which people have, the faculty have basically, participated and shared. So what is the percentage or, in your experience, the key points, which one should focus when they are writing out the project proposals? Because many of them, just gets basically demotivated, when they don't get any funds out of it.
Right, ma'am. So as I think Dr. Bipin mentioned, without looking at funding is a secondary thing which will automatically come. But important is to look at the product and to look at the customers. So once you're clearly aware who the customer is and what is your technology and how well your technology can actually match up to the expectations of the customer, that does half the job. And then the rest of the job is like building a good team where people can see that everybody is there who can implement the same. So these are the starting points, I think, where you should start with. So one is identifying the right customers. Sometimes we start from problem first approach. So where you already are aware, like the way these companies like Uber came up, where people, two friends standing at the side of a road trying to figure out for a taxi and not able to find in the middle of the night or somewhere in the evening. And they thought like, this is a problem that we are facing, and why not come up with a solution to this? And a lot of people come out with this approach where they actually look around themselves and see that what kind of problems are there and whether our skill set or our knowledge can actually solve any of these. So when you're aware of your customers and having a good team, I think investors will come in later on. I'll just give a brief on a few points which generally a committee considers when you come for a presentation. So when we go from academics, I've seen a lot of times it sounds a bit like a research proposal. So we have to give enough thought to the marketing side of it. So as I was mentioning, like knowing the customer well, knowing the market well, knowing the competitors. So if you're already aware who the competitors are and you pitch that this is something where your product's USP lies as compared to your competitors, so that gives a lot of confidence to your investors or the committee that you're aware of the scenario, you're aware of the market, and that makes their job also a lot easier. So one thing is the technical part where I think you'll be able to defend your technologies, I'm sure. So with that, I think for faculty members especially, I usually recommend them to give a big thought on the market, the customers, a revenue model that they can create, like how exactly they'll earn money from. Is it just direct sales, or is it sales plus service, or is it one-time sales plus some regular consumables coming on? So whatever the model is, I mean, along with the technical details, that would be good. Also, like when we initially go and pitch to investor or when we write a proposal, the problem statement matters a lot, because I've seen a lot of people, what they do is like they write a long description of the problem. For instance, somebody is making an anti-cancer drug. Now they'll highlight cancer in a page, or maybe when pitching, they'll take about 2 to 3 minutes in highlighting the cancer and its different forms, or maybe how badly people are affected. So I would just suggest that come right to the point that, see, cancer exists. Everybody knows the types and the sufferings that people are having. Only target on the area where you see there's a gap. So for instance, for tuberculosis, I'm launching a medical diagnostics. So I'll see what all other diagnostics are available. I don't need to explain anybody what TB is. Everybody in the committee or whoever is reviewing might very well be aware of that. So I'll just target like these are 4 diagnostic methods that are available right now. These are their drawbacks, and this is where I pitch in, and I can actually maybe at least 3 of the drawbacks I can cater to. So that is the way you write a problem statement, which will really help in the long run, where in the minimum words you can actually explain, and then that brings in the interest and the confidence of people who are reviewing that there's enough clarity in the proposal and you know enough about the market. So these are the general points. And again, like IP, the team, the market, the technological novelty, everything will have some weightage. Weightage is like 10 points, 20 points out of 100 if we talk about. So each of these things have some weightage. But the primary thing that distinguishes is like clarity in terms of market and your competition and the skill set of your team. So that's really important.
Excellent. I think the clear message from you is the value proposition. Basically,
right,
you know, when they give the design thinking, there are 2 key takeaways from your message. One is that, you know, once you are pitching it, it should be like an elevator pitch, that, you know, you are completely justifying it, that, you know, what is your feedback or maybe a USP compared to the existing technology and how you are differentiated into that. And secondly, you know, the other thing is that when you are making a prototype, basically, and when you are about to kind of a launch, it's very important to take a market feedback. So that also, you know, once you have a positive feedback, or once there itself, you know, there is a lot of scope of say the new things, you know, or your maybe, you know, fine tuning your technology which you have been offering. And second message which I would like to give is that the technology is very important, you know, where you are doing a differentiating, but, you know, each technologist also should give equal weightage to the marketing. So if it's a well-researched product, but if it is not, say, marketed well, or maybe there is an issue in branding, there is an issue in a supply chain, there is an issue in a service. So these three kind of important parameters, will not be able to see the success of a technology, or maybe whatever the good technology is being there. So the product is to be marketed right in the first instance, because the market or the scenario is so competitive that they don't give you another chance to improvise and relaunch the product. So you may take some time, spend enough time, and do take consultations, or as a team member or from outside, and do spend adequately on technology. Specifically very important, marketing as well is very important when you are launching a product, or when you're doing the commercialization of the product. Regulations is very important in a healthcare, so that is also must to be taken.
Yes, ma'am, that's a very valid point. I think even yeah, right from the beginning, if we are at least aware what kind of regulations will apply to our product, that is important. So I mean, while you might still face some roadblocks or some challenges in between while getting those things, but at the beginning when you propose to somebody, at least you should be aware what all regulatory compliances this product can face. So if you're aware, and even if you have a plan to do that, that will be good enough to begin with.
Right. And another message, probably, in the morning sessions, we did a IP, but the important factors specifically, which I wanted to say is in healthcare specifically, because many instances, when I talk to entrepreneurs or the life sciences companies, they say that, sometimes early patenting gives you advantage, and sometimes, you lose the opportunity, basically. So you have to find out and decide for yourself very carefully that when do you need to kind of patent it, and how you are ready for the market. Suppose if you patent it and that your raw materials, DMF, your commercializations may take more than 3 years or 4 years, and that patent validity will have, the time will be shrunken, or even filing of your PCTs. So it has to be at the right moment. So you might have to conceal your technology till the time you think that you will be ready for a market, rather than revealing it early. So that's the mistakes which many of these technocrats do it, that by over-enthusing about patenting your technology, which in turn not preparing equally for a commercializations into that. So even when you are tech transferring that opportunities, the companies will give you a less value, because they'll have a limited time and they will have a less time for a commercialization. So you might lose the value proposition. So it's very important to find out the right time to do patents, and don't get excited about patenting your technology immediately. Right.
Exactly. And also, like, for startups, while patents matter a lot, because we know like larger players have the capabilities to manufacture things early, and they can launch, and they already have a brand value. But then everything need not be patented also. Like in certain cases, the product could be like general, or it's too complicated in technology. So you patent it at a stage where it's kind of like done, when you're sure that nobody else will be able to do it before you. So I think it can be deferred to some time, but that's great. So only thing is, like, don't bring it on public platforms too early. That should be good enough. Also, like, many people try and file PCTs and start filing in other countries while they don't even see the market in other countries. So that is also something where you need to just do a quick market research. So wherever you feel in other countries, like African countries or European Union or US, if you want to go for a patent, patents are costly. So only when you see a clear market and your vision of expanding to those countries, then only go there and do a patent. Otherwise, I think the country is good enough for early stage startups.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I think I'll now invite our coordinators, organizers to conclude the sessions. Dr. Rajni or Sachin or Tata to take it further.
Dr. Sachin, have you felicitated Dr. Ashutosh?
Not yet.
Not yet. So I think you can request Madam to do the honors, please.
Yeah, Ashutosh, thank you so much for sparing the time. And I would, virtually like to felicitate you with this celebrations from our organizers, and for your participations and excellent, giving us time and sharing your knowledge at this particular platform of which is a prestigious platform of QIP, 33rd QIP from the DIPSAR. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And then there are many other opportunities also for startups. So in case somebody is interested, I think we'll be happy to help them or mentor them, anybody at your incubator also. So, I mean, I would request everybody to stay connected. Thanks a lot.
Right. Thank you, Ashutosh. And surely, we'll again be in touch with you very soon for
Thank you, ma'am.
some collaborations. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So I take this opportunity on behalf of the organizing committee of the 33rd QIP to thank Madam Sachin and the speakers, resource persons, and the participants for having such an interesting interactive sessions. And I think the most important takeaway from here is that we can have as much theory, but till we get started, we may sometimes fall and learn more than just reading and learn. So I think we should all start. And there's no other better way to do a startup than to start. Thanks a lot. Thanks, and take care and stay safe. And for all the participants, we'll be seeing you tomorrow for the day 3 sessions, starting at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And looking forward to see you all, and keep connected. Thank you so much once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Rajni.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin. Thanks.
Iya,